Once someone told me, well, just apply to jobs, set aside an hour and apply to jobs. But like, how many jobs? Like, then it feels like I'm doing too much. Like, I don't want to just apply to jobs that I don't feel interested in. That sounds like I'm rushing it. I don't want to rush the process, because what if they do call back and then I end up in a position that I just randomly applied to? And I don't want that. Like, at this point, the job matters. I don't want to feel rushed through the process.
Welcome back, Wolfpack fans. We have part 2 of our interview with Dr. Shana McDowell. So if you missed last week, she is going to give you a little overview of the work she's done on her PhD and where she is now in the process of her job search. Hi again, Shana.
Hi, everyone.
So tell us a little bit about what your dissertation title is, why it matters, really quick, just 30-second version, and then let's get into that job search piece.
So my dissertation title was all about applying machine learning to sweet potato production. And so we were focusing on yield prediction of sweet potatoes. And so essentially, long story short, I study the way sweet potatoes grow during the growing season because their value is tied to their growth. So how symmetric they are, how round they are. And so we want to decrease the amount of waste caused by loss and food waste, and we want to increase their profit by understanding the environmental effects that lead to the more preferred size sweet potato. And then outside of that, I have completed my PhD and I am currently searching for jobs.
There we go. So you're at this place now, which in our last episode, we talked about the messy middle, where you're now Dr. McDowell. Congratulations. And that brings along the uncertainty of what is next. So what are you hoping to do once you finish these edits? First of all, how long are you giving yourself to finish the final edits? Because that could go on forever.
Well, I've completed the first final draft. So now it is being revised by committee members. And so that process should end sometime around July 10th. That's when everything has to be submitted. So we just have a little bit over a week before all things are finished.
So you're really at that final deadline where you're coming through the finish line, you've had your celebration, and now it's what is next. What do you want to do next?
I want to find a job, but I also want to rest. So I need a balance of rest and job because it's been a lot these last few months.
Yeah. It's surprising sometimes when you start the job search and realize that is a full-time job. And now you're in the stage where you are going to give yourself a little bit of a break and then dive into the job search. So this is going to be our mock counseling session today on the career coaching, which I would love to give you. So let's think about this exciting crossroads that you have. What has been surprising for you so far in the whole job search? Have you applied for any jobs?
I have applied for some jobs. I've applied for 3 roles. I would say it's the most surprising for me is that the time it takes to prepare for applying for the position, as well as once you have applied and they call you back for an interview, the time it takes to prepare for interviews. Because just applying for jobs can be a full-time job on its own, but then you also have to prepare. So like practicing code and practicing responses to behavioral questions, having your story aligned to whatever position it is you're applying for. The amount of time, I don't think I realized how much time it takes to apply, as well as like the emotional, I guess, aspect of applying. Because once you've applied and you've done your interview process, the emotions from like being rejected or not hearing back or finding other roles. So there's like an emotional toll, and just the time it takes has been surprising to me.
And it's no fun either, right?
It's not fun at all.
I mean, you get rejections. I don't know anyone that's listening to this episode that's never been told no. And if they have never been told no, they might want to get off the bench and get in the game.
Right.
So I've gotten multiple rejections in my lifetime. I can get on many of them. What is that like for you with the jobs you applied for? I'm guessing that they didn't come through. How did you continue to remain optimistic when you got the no?
You kind of just remind yourself that a lot of times it's a fit situation. So like there may be some aspect of you that just didn't fit with that particular position or job, or sometimes it is they already had someone in mind for that position. Like I know one of the jobs that I had ever previously that I was in, they created the job for me specifically, and I knew that some people had applied for that position because they had to post it, but that it was a job that I already had technically.
Right.
So having that experience, knowing that it was something that was created for me prior to, and other people had applied, kind of helped me remember like this could be a job like that. So you kind of just focus on the next one. So like to know that okay, you've done everything that you needed to do up to this point, and so you kind of just focus on what's next because there's a whole bunch of jobs out here that you can apply to, even with the current economy and all the things. But you kind of just focus on like okay, well that one didn't work, so like what's the next one? Because if you focus on what didn't work, then you're not going to be applying to other jobs. And the thing is, you need a job, so you kind of have to just push it to the back.
Amen to that. I feel like everything you said there is so important for everyone to hear. It's not always about you. And sometimes I will recommend to candidates to ask for feedback on why they were not selected. Because I know in one of your interviews, you went through multiple stages. It was maybe 3 rounds or something.
For
4 rounds. Did you ask
I
why?
did ask. I haven't heard back.
Fair. And sometimes people don't want to say anything, just to be honest with folks. So always ask, because if they don't tell you, you're still in the same place. But sometimes they might give you some feedback on something you were lacking that you could sharpen as a skill set. But sometimes people are nervous because there'll be a lawsuit. And if they say something, you might sue them. But always ask. So we don't always get an answer. And moving forward now in your job search, this part of our podcast is going to be me helping you because I'm a career counselor, career coach. I've done this for a minute. Let's hear what you're struggling with now and what help you would like to get in this conversation.
The biggest thing that I'm struggling with is organization. And another piece of that would be there's a bit of imposter syndrome in this just process of job searching because it's easy to say like, okay, well, I've done this and it doesn't 100% match up with this job description. So should I apply? Like I have some skills, but I don't have all the skills. Do I even apply? And so then there's this spiral that happens because you're like, should I apply? Should I not apply? And so that has been one thing that has been taking up some time because I have to get out of my head and just apply. And then also just the process of just searching for jobs, like searching for jobs. Would this be a good fit? Could I see myself doing this? That in itself is a little nerve-wracking. Having all the things in order. So that's where I was saying the organization. So like, is my LinkedIn up to date? Do I have a professional website that people can go and look at what I've accomplished? It's like you want to do all of these things, but you also need to apply for the job. But all of these things take time. So how how do you put all of these things or get all of the things done?
Such good questions. And I will also reference that we have a graduate school career coach. Her name is Kelly Round. She was on a previous episode that we will reference in our show notes, and she's available to support folks through this process. So a reference there. And to answer your question about organization, we're going to link up also in our show notes to our job search tracker. This is going to help you to keep track of all the people that you meet, color code it. But I feel like one of the big things is blocking your schedule. I know you're taking your break, but let's just look ahead. Let's say you took your break for however long you want to take it, and 100% that's a great idea. You need to recharge your batteries and get in touch with your personal life and all the things that maybe have been neglected over the last few years. So let's say you're starting now. You've got your 40 hours a week in your life. How many hours do you want to devote to your job search?
That's a great question. Because I guess the hard part, I don't know, what is the typical time that people use to apply? Like, should I take it on like a job? Like, if I do this, if I apply to, or if I search for jobs like I'm applying for a job, if that makes sense, like, if like I'm working a job, I guess, is the probability of me achieving the job or getting that job more if I approach it to like it's a job. Yeah. I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think that my answer to that is it depends on how much time you want to devote to it and you have to devote to it. So let's assume that you don't have any big things in your personal life that are pulling you away. Let's just say 30 hours a week. Does that sound reasonable to you?
Yes, it does sound reasonable because I don't have anything pulling me.
Yeah.
There's no other obligation. It's just me.
And sometimes it's nice to have that accountability buddy saying, okay, so now we're going to color block our schedule and we're going to put in the time for our job search. Now, you asked me a question about how to spend your time too, in terms of do I apply for these jobs where I have 3 of the 5 things? The answer is yes. Apply to all of the things that excite you, that light that fire. And I know earlier we talked about it doesn't just have to be agriculture, it can be data science. So customizing your resume and your CV depending on what is requested by that employer. Typically, industry will look more for resumes, like a 2-page summary, and your longer CV will be more for the academic audience, nonprofits, governments sometimes, but they'll tell you what they want. I would say customize it every time. And you said this, that takes time. That takes time. But I know you're an AI expert because you use that with sweet potatoes. So we can use that in your job search too. We can ask our bot to help us out a little bit with customizing this job description to this CV. And think about the job description is the rule book. So when you are applying for your 30 hours a week, I would say try to make half of that time at least networking and informational interviews. And then half of that time actually applying for real vacancies that you see posted through all the different places that you're looking. They may be specific to your industry. They may be things that are local, depending on your geographic preference. What are you doing right now on networking? Let's get into that one because I know you were part of a program that taught you about networking, and I know you came to some workshops that we did here in the College of Engineering called Smooth Sailing to a PhD. Let's hear a little bit about your strategy for networking that you're using now.
Definitely the informational interview. So like didn't necessarily use the strategy of like looking up how connected you are to people working at a specific company, because I know in one of the workshops I think you showed us how to like go through our LinkedIn, see who we knew working at a specific position and like what your connection was and reaching out to them that way. For one of the jobs that I applied to recently, I was introduced to someone who worked at the company through like a workshop that I had attended that my advisor knew, and so she kind of like made that initial connection. And whenever I told her that I was applying, she kind of reached back out to her and was like, is it okay if she reaches out to you? And so during that time, I think I reached out to her for an informational interview just to get an idea of like how she liked the company, how long she had been there. And that was really helpful. And I think along with her, I interviewed maybe 2 other people that worked at that company. And it just came from random opportunities. So like if there's a job fair, I would suggest that you attend it and talk to the people that are working there, especially if it's at a position that you a company that you see yourself working with, because that's how I met 2 people that I connected to for an informational interview. Just like with applying to jobs, like you might get rejected from some of these people that you reach out to, but all you need is one person to say yes, yes, you can talk to me about my job. Information interviews definitely help, so I plan to continue doing that, because also along with you getting information about the person that's working there, that's a networking connection that you have to that company. So maybe they know someone working in the department that you want to be in. So that's helpful. And then also outside of people that I don't know and connecting with them, I have a lot of people that work at companies that I do see myself or could see myself working with. And so I've reached out to them as well. So just reaching out to different members of my network to continue networking.
That's great. You're on the right track. You're starting off and maybe even revving that up. So, what do you think? Well, I do want to also address what you said earlier about that LinkedIn hack, and we will reference that in our show notes because I made a little 8-minute video about that LinkedIn hack where, let's say you want to work at Syngenta and you're wondering who works at Syngenta that's an NC State alum. How can you do the wolf pack? We're all part of the family thing. So, thank you for referencing that. So, I want to have you think a little bit in this reflection question on what would help you to stay motivated and scale up the way that you are being intentional about this whole job search. And again, this is after your break. Maybe you'll feel more energized, but what do you think would help you?
I would think not just saying I'm going to apply to jobs today, but being a bit more, what is it, the SMART goals, like something that's measurable, like setting something that I can actually attain in a specific amount of time, like having that laid out and maybe not necessarily putting so much pressure on to once someone told me, well, just apply to jobs, set aside an hour and apply to jobs. But like, how many jobs? Like, then that feels like I'm doing too much. Like, I don't want to just apply to jobs that I don't feel interested in. That sounds like I'm rushing it. I don't want to rush the process because what if they do call back and then I end up in a position that I just randomly applied to, and I don't want that. Like at this point, the job matters. I don't want to feel rushed through the process. But setting measurable goals and applying for jobs as well as setting up my online presence. Even just going back to some of the resources that you gave us, like I watched the video about the imposter syndrome during the job search because I was like, I guess you can have imposter syndrome during this process too. And even like listening to you say block out your schedule, I'm thinking like, oh, I threw that whole not I didn't throw my schedule away, but since I don't have to be accountable for work anymore, I just closed that app and haven't opened it. But it makes sense to schedule schedule out my day because you still have to get things done. Going back, revisiting old research, not old, but previous resources that I was exposed to and setting measurable goals will definitely help moving forward.
Yeah, and we kind of gave you a little bit of you're very quantifiable in the work you do, a numbers way to approach it. Every day I'm going to spend, let's say it's 5 days a week, I'm going to spend 6 hours a day. Right. And I block it on my calendar just like I did when I was a student. Here's where I'm going to the gym in the break, and here's where I'm taking care of myself and hanging out with friends and all of the things that we need to do to be humans. Right. And I'm also going to set my goals for half of that is networking, and I'm going to go to the coffee shops I love and hang out with people and learn about what advice they have for me as I'm making this transition because we've all been through it and people love to give advice. So you're 100% on the right track. Now, you mentioned your LinkedIn profile. What would you give yourself as a grade on your LinkedIn profile right now if like an A+ was the best effort you could ever do?
I would say it's about a C, maybe B-.
All right. So you're a tough critic, and I know that's one of the things you haven't had time to do. And a lot of people listening are going to say, "Oh my gosh, I've got to put that up on my to-do list. I got to get it up there." Well, that's going to be one of your tasks for one of your days, right? It may be just going through some LinkedIn Learning, which you have access to as an NC State student, learning a little bit about how to buff that profile up. And as I look at it, I like that you put the open to work banner on there that shows recruiters that you are currently available, and you have a wonderful headshot. Maybe a background image on that bar there would be helpful, just because as people are searching it, you could pick something sweet potato like or data like,
Yeah.
whatever you want, but something visual there. And then, of course, your headliner can now be updated because you're no longer a doctoral student at NC State. So you might choose keywords that you are hoping people will search to find you because recruiters will go through. So it could be things related to data analysis that you add in to that headliner. And I love you're taking notes. Viewers aren't viewing, so they can't see that, but they're listening. And then add a summary section. So our summary section gives us a specific number of characters. It's almost like a mini cover letter that you can write in the first person. And again, you can put your whole resume into AI and say, help me with my LinkedIn summary. And then you get a first draft that you can work through. And then with the human touch, put your style on there. So I believe that would help you. And then just adding a little bit more detail to your descriptions of all the things that you have done, because I know right now you're using LinkedIn to look for jobs, but also remember it's a two-way process. The recruiters are looking, so they want to see under your PhD research what skills you gained, almost like a resume on steroids. And then start posting things. Start posting things about that you're available and you're interested, and interesting things you learned during your transition and your job search, just so people will see you're active.
Yeah, I do. So I did, as a part of that PhD, the soft skills fellowship, we had a person that would help us with our LinkedIn, and she said some of the same things. But this was in January when I was trying to like get everything started and finish the process. So like hearing it twice will definitely have me going on here to update these things. No, for sure.
Yeah, and then you'll have your task list of things that you'll do during your 30 hours. Like you'll be looking for jobs, you'll be networking and having conversations and building relationships with people. And then your online presence is the main way people will search you out. So getting that super strong that you feel really confident about it. So as we wind up, what would you say would be two things that you'd like to do to start off your job search so that you feel accomplished in your search, and what kind of support would make you feel like you are moving forward?
So the two things that I picked were, one was to apply to at least 5 jobs. I don't know if that's too much, but apply, because it does take time, as we talked about tailoring your information, but apply to 5 jobs and then have a polished LinkedIn. I won't add the personal website because the LinkedIn could be the lower hanging fruit. The website takes a little bit more time to design. And as far as support, I would say, one, I'm going to have to add my accountability partner to this, because I do have an accountability partner and we meet on Tuesdays. And so I need to tell her to hold me accountable for some of these things. As well as, one question I would ask you is if I could reach out to you, I guess, for a question about like cover letters and having that set up. And then like if something isn't working, I guess with having like your position as a career coach, what does it look like to just ask for assistance or reach out to you about something specific as that?
Yeah, good question. So my role in the College of Engineering is a little more group focused, but people who come to my group programs, I'm always happy to answer quick questions for them. And then the good thing is you also have access to the Career Development Center for 6 months after graduation. So that's good to know. So you can go on to EPAC and you can schedule an appointment with your career counselor and get some more cover letter tips. So wonderful question. I think, Dr. McDowell, you are going to be a huge success. And thank you so much for being vulnerable to just walk through this messy middle with us today.
Thank you for guiding me through it.